before the Great Flood, before Moses, before the first page of the Bible was ever written. There was a book so dangerous that every empire tried to erase it. The Book of Enoch, a text that speaks of beings who descended from the sky in blazing light. Beings who altered humanity, created giants, and revealed forbidden knowledge that shaped the entire world. For centuries, this book was banned, burned, and hidden in secret vaults. But fragments survived. And inside them lies a prophecy so terrifying, so accurate, that some believe it describes the world we live in right now. Tonight, we open the pages they didn't want you to see. The truth about the Watchers, the creation of the Nephilim, and the prophecy that could change everything we think we know about humanity. This is the Forbidden Book of Enoch. For thousands of years, the world believed that the story of humanity began with Adam and Eve. Yet the Book of Enoch tells a beginning far older and far darker. A beginning that starts not on earth but in the sky. According to the ancient text, a group of powerful celestial beings watched over humanity from above. They were known as the Watchers. Enoch describes them as radiant giants with eyes brighter than fire and voices that shook the air around them. They did not obey the same laws as humans. They moved between realms and understood secrets that people could not even imagine. The watch of these beings was meant to be silent and distant. They were guardians, observers. But something changed. Enoch writes that the Watchers began to desire the world they were sent to protect. They became fascinated by human life and by the beauty of human women. This desire broke a cosmic rule. A rule that no celestial being was ever allowed to cross. Under the leadership of a figure named Semyaza, 200 Watchers made a pact on the summit of Mount Hermon. Ancient traditions from Lebanon and Israel still call this mountain the place where heaven touched the earth. Semyaza told them that what they were about to do would bring a curse upon all of them. Still they agreed. If one fell, all would fall. And so the descent began. Enoch writes that the Watchers came down in columns of light that cut through the night sky. People who witnessed them described a brilliance more intense than lightning. These beings approached humans not as invisible spirits but as physical forms. The ancient Aramaic text suggests they could shape their appearance to look like men, but their size and presence made it clear that they were not human. The Watchers took wives among the daughters of men. The text says these unions produced children unlike anything the world had seen before. These children were called Nephilim. They were described as immense beings with strength beyond anything natural. Early Jewish writings record them as tyrants who consumed the resources of entire regions. Some sources claim that the Nephilim turned violent once they realized their power. Others claim they began to rule over humans like gods. Archaeologists have found legends of giant kings in almost every civilization, from Mesopotamia to the Americas. It is as if every ancient culture remembered the same event in its own way. But the descent of the Watchers brought more than giants. Enoch says they revealed forbidden knowledge to humanity. This is where the story becomes truly unsettling. These beings taught metallurgy and weapon making. They taught sorcery and enchantments. They taught the study of stars and heavenly movements. They taught the arts of beauty and seduction. In other words, they gave humanity an artificial jump in technology and culture. This is one of the most controversial ideas in the entire text. It suggests that the sudden rise of ancient civilizations was not natural evolution but intervention. Many historians disagree. Yet even today, researchers admit that the explosive development of metallurgy, agriculture, astronomy, and architecture in the ancient world had no clear explanation. How did humanity advance so quickly? Why did pyramids and megalithic structures appear at the same time across continents that never met? Why do so many ancient myths speak of heavenly beings who taught knowledge to early humans? The Book of Enoch offers a single answer. The Watchers. Their teachings came with a price. The text describes that the world grew chaotic. Violence spread. Kings rose who were half divine and half human. People became dependent on forbidden knowledge. It was this corruption that brought the attention of higher realms. Enoch says that the cries of humanity reached heaven. What followed marked the beginning of the judgment that would reshape the earth. This chapter does more than tell a myth. It unveils the idea that humanity's first teachers were not humans at all. That our earliest knowledge did not come from natural discovery but from a celestial rebellion. And if that is true, then what else might the Watchers have left behind? Artifacts, DNA traces, secret teachings, signs in the sky. The Book of Enoch claims that the answers exist, hidden, waiting for the moment when the world is ready to understand the truth. The Book of Enoch does not only describe what happened in the ancient world, it describes what is coming. And this is the part that has terrified scholars, religious leaders, and governments for centuries. Because Enoch's visions do not sound like ancient metaphors. They sound like direct descriptions of events that mirror the modern world. According to the text, Enoch was taken into the heavens by a radiant being who guided him through realms no human eye was meant to see. He was shown the structure of the universe, the movements of stars, the places where the spirits of the dead reside, the chambers where the winds and oceans are held. All of this sounds poetic, but inside these passages are details that match modern scientific discoveries. Enoch wrote about the earth hanging in empty space thousands of years before any civilization understood the concept. He describes stars as individual worlds long before telescopes existed. He spoke of cycles of destruction and rebirth that align eerily with geological records of global catastrophes. But the most disturbing part of Enoch's journey is the prophecy of the Great Judgment. He describes a time when violence and chaos would spread across the earth again, just like in the days of the Watchers. A time when humans would become obsessed with knowledge, technology, and power. A time when people would create artificial beings that appear alive but have no soul. The ancient Ethiopian version uses the phrase, images that speak, which many researchers interpret as prophetic references to screens, digital avatars, and artificial intelligence. Enoch also wrote that the heavens would tremble with signs. Fire would fall from the sky. Stars would shift from their places. The earth would spin in confusion. At first glance, these words appear symbolic, but some scholars see them as descriptions of satellites, meteors, solar storms, or even nuclear events. The idea that Enoch foresaw a future where humanity controls dangerous technologies is one of the reasons this book was considered too controversial to include in the biblical canon. One of the most chilling visions describes a being of metal and flame that rises to judge the world. Some see this as an angel of punishment. Others see something much more modern, a symbol of machines that think, machines that decide, machines that rule. A world where humanity hands its authority to artificial creation. A world where intelligence no longer belongs to humans alone. Enoch's prophecy also includes a warning to the descendants of the ancient giants. According to the text, the spirits of the Nephilim would remain on earth as invisible forces influencing humanity until the end of days. They would encourage corruption. They would fuel warfare. They would whisper to kings and rulers. In other words, the shadow of the Watchers would never fully disappear. It would evolve. What makes Enoch's prophecy so powerful is not that it predicts a single catastrophic event. It predicts a pattern, a cycle of rise and fall, a cycle that begins with forbidden knowledge and ends with judgment. The same way the ancient world collapsed under the weight of the Watchers' teachings, Enoch suggests that modern civilization will face consequences for the knowledge it cannot control. We live in an age of genetic editing, artificial intelligence, surveillance from space, and weapons created through secrets humanity barely understands. Many researchers believe that we are repeating the same mistakes. that the warnings in the Book of Enoch were written not for the people of the past but for us. This chapter is not only a prophecy, it is a mirror, and it forces us to ask a question humanity has avoided for centuries. If the ancient world fell because of knowledge it could not handle, then what happens when our world pushes even further? What happens when modern watchers return? The Book of Enoch contains one of the oldest and most mysterious descriptions of the universe. Unlike the simple heaven and earth found in many religious texts, Enoch speaks of a structure that is layered, controlled and filled with beings, forces and mechanisms that operate beyond human understanding. These descriptions are so detailed that some researchers believe Enoch recorded a vision of dimensions rather than a vision of religion. Enoch writes that he was led by an angel through the different levels of creation. The first heaven appeared as a place of clouds, winds, and atmospheric forces. It looked like the sky humans see every day, but behind the weather there were powerful guardians controlling the balance of the world. Enoch claimed these forces kept the oceans and winds in perfect order so the earth would not collapse into chaos. In the second heaven he saw a realm of darkness where the fallen angels were imprisoned. These were not the watchers who descended willingly but beings punished for ancient rebellions. Their cries filled the air. According to the text, they were trapped until the final judgment. Many later traditions describe this realm as a kind of cosmic prison located between worlds. The third heaven shocked Enoch the most. It contained two opposite realms side by side, a paradise of light and a wasteland of punishment. This duality became the foundation of the later concepts of heaven and hell. The Book of Enoch suggests that both realms existed long before humanity. It also implies that the fate of souls was connected to cosmic law rather than human belief. In the fourth heaven, Enoch saw the origins of time itself. He described enormous wheels of fire carrying the cycles of the sun and the moon. The movements of these bodies were controlled by angelic beings who maintained perfect order. For thousands of years, people assumed these descriptions were symbolic. Today, the precision of the solar and lunar cycles recorded in the Book of Enoch has shocked mathematicians. The text describes the exact length of the solar year with surprising accuracy for an ancient book. The fifth heaven contained armies, legions of angelic beings preparing for battle. Enoch wrote that some were silent and filled with sorrow because they had watched the corruption of earth and were not allowed to intervene. Others stood ready as protectors of creation. Many scholars believe this section inspired later writings about the hosts of heaven and the idea of spiritual warfare. The sixth heaven was described as a realm of supreme intelligence. Here Enoch saw angels who governed the stars, the seasons, and the laws of physics. They recorded everything, every motion of the heavens, every action of humans, every shift in nature. This level of organization looks almost like an ancient description of mathematical rules or cosmic algorithms. Some modern readers compare it to a symbolic description of the universe behaving like a program system. Finally, Enoch reached the seventh heaven, the highest realm. He described it as a place filled with blinding light. A light so powerful it had no color because it contained all colors. Here he saw beings that appeared larger and brighter than anything in the lower realms. They were not watchers. They were not angels. They were something beyond classification. They surrounded a throne that emitted sound like thunder and radiance like 1,000 suns. Enoch admitted that his human senses almost collapsed in this realm. The ancient text suggests that this is the true center of creation and the source of all laws that govern existence. What makes these visions remarkable is how they resemble concepts found in modern physics. Multiple layers of reality, dimensions beyond human perception, invisible forces that control the behavior of the universe, a central source of energy and order. These similarities do not mean Enoch literally saw scientific laws, but they raise a question that humanity still cannot answer. How could a text written thousands of years ago describe a universe structured in layers, governed by complex systems and filled with forces invisible to human eyes? Some believe Enoch witnessed symbolic visions. Others believe he was taken into dimensional realms that modern science has not yet reached. And then there are those who believe he was shown the blueprint of creation so he could warn humanity about its place in the cosmic order. The deeper meaning of this chapter is simple and unsettling. Humans are not alone. They are part of a structure far larger and far older than anything taught in modern religion. And if the universe truly is layered in this way, then the Watchers, the giants and the spirits described by Enoch may not be myths. They may be inhabitants of other levels of reality still influencing our world today. The Book of Enoch does not stop at the descent of the Watchers. It describes what happened after their rebellion shook the foundations of heaven. According to the ancient text, the corruption they brought to earth triggered a response from the higher realms, and what followed was nothing less than a cosmic war hidden from human history. Enoch writes that the cries of humanity rose into the heavens as violence spread across the world. Giants ruled the land. Forbidden knowledge twisted human society. Bloodshed became normal. The earth itself cried out under the weight of corruption. In this moment the highest angels were summoned. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael and Uriel. Not gentle figures but powerful commanders prepared for battle. The text describes them as beings made of blazing light capable of splitting mountains with their presence. Michael was given the task to confront Semyaza, the leader of the Watchers. Gabriel was ordered to strike the giants born from forbidden unions. Raphael was sent to bind Azazel, the Watcher who taught humanity the secrets of war, weapons and sorcery. Uriel was commanded to warn Noah about the great flood that was coming. This detail is important. The Book of Enoch connects the flood to the actions of the Watchers, suggesting that the cataclysm was not only a moral punishment but a strategic reset to stop the spread of corrupted DNA and forbidden knowledge. The fall of Azazel is one of the most dramatic scenes in ancient literature. According to Enoch, he was bound hand and foot with chains of blazing metal and cast into a pit in the desert of Dudiel. Some historians believe this region is located near modern-day eastern Sinai. The idea that a fallen being is imprisoned somewhere on earth fascinated early Jewish and Christian writers and appears in several later traditions. The war against the giants was devastating. Gabriel was described as unleashing winds, fire and cosmic forces on the Nephilim. The giants began to fight each other in a frenzy and the world descended into chaos. Archaeologists around the globe have found myths of ancient wars involving giant beings or titans from Greece to Mesopotamia to the Americas. These stories often end the same way. A great disaster wipes them from the earth. But the most unsettling detail in the Book of Enoch comes after the destruction of the giants. Their bodies may have died, but their spirits did not. Enoch writes that the spirits of the Nephilim became restless forces wandering the earth. They were cut off from heaven and from reincarnation. They became hostile toward humanity because they were born of both heaven and earth and belonged to neither. These spirits were said to influence violence, war, corruption, and desire. In later texts they were called unclean spirits or demons. This concept changes everything. It suggests that the dark forces mentioned in ancient traditions are not spirits of fallen angels but the spirits of hybrid beings created by the Watchers. If this is true, then humanity's battle is not against celestial rebellion but against the consequences of a forbidden union that happened thousands of years ago. The judgment of the Watchers was final. They were sentenced to watch the destruction they caused. They were denied return to heaven. They were imprisoned until the day of the final judgment. Yet the text implies that their influence did not end. Their teachings remained. Their symbols remained. Their knowledge flowed through secret societies, ancient kingdoms and hidden cults. The Watchers may have fallen, but their legacy shaped the course of human civilization. This part reveals a truth more terrifying than the descent itself. The rebellion of the Watchers was not a myth. It was an event that changed the genetic, spiritual, and cultural direction of humanity. The war that followed was not symbolic but literal. And according to Enoch, the echoes of that war continue even now in ways we cannot see. According to the Book of Enoch, the Watchers were not just rebels. They were teachers. They carried knowledge that did not exist on Earth, and once they broke the cosmic law, that knowledge poured into humanity like a flood. This is the most controversial part of the entire text because it suggests that human civilization did not rise slowly through natural discovery but experienced a sudden burst of intelligence guided by beings from beyond. Enoch writes that Azazel taught humans the art of forging weapons, swords, shields, knives, and tools of war. Before this moment, humans used only stones and bones. Yet almost instantly the ancient world leaped ahead in metallurgy. Archaeologists still cannot explain how early civilizations learned to extract metals from or with such speed. The Book of Enoch provides an answer that modern history avoids: divine intervention. Another watcher named Shemaiah taught enchantments and root cutting, a term believed to refer to both herbal medicine and early forms of chemistry. These teachings were passed secretly to tribes that later became the healers and magicians of ancient cultures. Even today, the origins of alchemy remain mysterious. Ancient manuscripts describe beings of light teaching hidden formulas, just as Enoch recorded. Another watcher called Barakiel taught the movements of the stars. Astronomy appeared suddenly in Mesopotamia with accuracy far beyond what primitive cultures should have had. Ancient temples aligned perfectly with solstices and equinoxes. The knowledge of star cycles found in Egypt, Sumer, and the Andes is identical even though these civilizations never met. This global similarity has always been a mystery. Enoch's text suggests that the mystery is not human but celestial. What makes the teachings of the Watchers even more disturbing is that they included knowledge of beauty and manipulation. A watcher named Castaja taught women painting of the face, jewelry, enchantment, and techniques to change their appearance. According to Enoch, this caused corruption because humans began to idolize physical beauty over spiritual purity. It may sound symbolic, but some historians believe this is the earliest recorded warning about vanity, seduction, and psychological influence. The most powerful teaching came from a watcher named Kokabel who revealed the secrets of constellations. Enoch writes that constellations were not only stars in the sky but markers of time, gates of spiritual realms, and maps of the universe. Many ancient monuments such as the pyramids of Giza, Göbekli Tepe, and the Nazca lines follow celestial alignments so precise that modern scientists still study them. Were these cultures guided by human discovery or by the remnants of forbidden teachings? Enoch recorded that each teaching of the Watchers created a chain reaction. Technology grew, knowledge rose, but morality collapsed. The ancient world changed too fast. Humans were not ready. Power without wisdom brought destruction. This is the same warning found in almost every ancient myth. Knowledge from the gods lifting humanity too high too quickly. After the fall of the Watchers, their knowledge did not disappear. It spread underground through secret groups, priesthoods, and later through mystery schools. Many ancient orders claimed to possess wisdom from beings who came from the sky. The Chaldeans of Babylon, the priests of Egypt, the Magi of Persia, and even early Greek philosophers spoke of hidden teachers that visited humanity before recorded history. Some researchers believe this forbidden legacy continued through medieval alchemists, Renaissance occultists, Kabbalistic schools, and Masonic orders. They preserved fragments of knowledge that ordinary people were never allowed to see. Those who controlled this knowledge controlled power. Enoch warned that as long as this wisdom exists in human hands, the cycle of corruption would return. Today we see a strange mirror of ancient times. Sudden leaps in technology, genetic manipulation, Artificial intelligence. Knowledge accelerating faster than morality. Scientists unlocking secrets of creation without fully understanding the consequences. Enoch's warning echoes louder now than ever. Forbidden knowledge always comes with a price. The deeper truth of this chapter is simple. The Watchers changed humanity forever. Not through breeding giants but through teaching secrets that shaped the path of civilizations. Their legacy is in our myths, our symbols, our sciences, and perhaps even in the shadows of institutions that still guard ancient knowledge. If Enoch is right, the story of the Watchers is not just history. It is the blueprint of how human knowledge rises and how it eventually collapses. And every time humanity draws near the edge of forbidden knowledge, the world stands on the threshold of judgment once more. Enoch's visions reached a point where even the angels who guided him hesitated to speak. The ancient text says that beyond all the realms he witnessed, beyond the fall of the Watchers and the destruction of the giants, there was a final message meant only for the last generation. A warning sealed until the world would once again mirror the days before the flood. Enoch saw that the cycle of corruption would return. He saw a future where humanity would rise rapidly in knowledge. A future where people would reshape nature, control fire from the heavens, and build systems that watched every movement on earth. He described a world where humans would trust the works of their own hands more than the laws of the universe. He said that the hearts of people would grow cold, that truth would be twisted, and that power would be worshipped like a god. The ancient prophet wrote that in the last days the earth would be filled with confusion. Nations would rise in anger. Storms would multiply. Fire would fall from the sky. The boundaries between realms would weaken, and the spirits of the ancient giants would influence leaders and kingdoms through desire for war and domination. He said the voices of the Watchers would echo again through knowledge disguised as light. Humanity would welcome it because it promised strength and intelligence. The final judgment described by Enoch was not a sudden event. It was a process. A slow awakening of forces hidden since the dawn of time. He saw technology playing the same role that forbidden knowledge played in the ancient world. He saw humanity standing at the edge of a path that mirrors the one walked by the Watchers themselves. A path where power rises faster than morality. Where wisdom disappears beneath pride. Where creation forgets its place in the cosmic order. In his last vision, Enoch stood on a high mountain and saw a world divided. Light on one side, chaos on the other. Above it, the heavens trembled as if preparing for something immense. A voice told him that the cycle cannot be broken but only understood. The world of the Watchers fell because it reached beyond its limits. The world of the future would fall for the same reason. The prophet asked who would guide humanity when the final cycle begins. The answer he received was a mystery. A presence said that the signs would appear in the sky and the earth. That the children of men would feel something ancient stirring in their spirit. That hidden knowledge would rise to the surface once more. And that those who remember the past would be the first to recognize the return. The text ends with a message that scholars have debated for centuries. A message that seems written directly for the world we live in now. Enoch wrote that the Watchers of the future would not descend in fire and light. They would return through influence, through knowledge, through the systems created by humanity itself. The fallen wisdom would come disguised as progress. And only those who understand the first fall will recognize the second. The final words are simple. They echo across time. Humanity is standing at the threshold. What happened once will happen again. The cycle is closing. And the Watchers are not gone. They are waiting,